Hey, how's it going YouTube? Raj here, hope you guys are doing well. Today I'm back with part 2 of my L'Artisan Parfumeur sample videos. So I've done one before where I talked about 4 fragrances. I'm going to do the same thing again. And I've also got part 3, which is the final one, coming up in a few weeks time. So all the details of the 4 fragrances are down below in the description box, along with the timeline to help you out. And let's just get straight into it. So the first fragrance, this is the sample card that it comes with. Let's get a close up, why not? So L'Artisan Parfumeur Paris, the Niche House, and this one is Premier Figuier. Okay, so the notes in this fragrance actually is the eau de toilette, so the normal version. There is an extreme version, which is an eau de parfum strength. This one was created in 1994, actually, by Olivia Giacobetti, a really good perfumer, and I recommend you check out some of her other creations as well. This fragrance has fig leaf, galbanum, almond milk, fig, sandalwood, dried fruit, parasol lime, not sure what parasol lime is, lime anyway, and coconut. So I wasn't quite sure what to expect with this fig-based fragrance. This is actually the first fig-based fragrance I've tried, and I say the first I've tried. This one is actually apparently the first fig-based fragrance ever created, and then obviously there are a lot more on the market now. So I didn't know what to expect. I wasn't sure whether I was going to like it. I love this, and I'm actually really looking forward to trying the extreme version. If you're looking for something fresh and sweet and juicy and invigorating and a perfect, for me, spring and summer fragrance, I don't think you can do any wrong with Premier Figuier, to be honest, because it's bursting with a kind of sweet, almost grassy, leafy element in the beginning. It's kind of like, I kind of came up with the thought of you're walking through a field, and the sun is starting to come out. It's morning time. There's a little bit of condensation on this grass. The grass has grown a little bit, and on the ground there are these figs which have been cut open, and you're literally just walking through this field like barefoot, squashing these figs, and the juice and this sweetness of the fig is combining with the sweetness of this grass, which has maybe just been cut the night before. In parts of the field, and other parts of the field there are like long grass, and it's all just combining to make this incredibly uplifting fragrance. Very fresh, but not fresh in a kind of citrus aquatic style, fresh in a kind of fruity, oozing with green goodness in this fragrance. It's a really excellent fragrance. I like it a lot. As you go on to the fragrance, as the fragrance develops, I mean, you get this, well, it says it has coconut, and I don't know whether this is the coconut contributing to this a creamy texture, like a kind of like a body lotion texture, not texture, a scent. If you imagine like a coconut body butter from the Body Shop, but not as bad as that smell, which I have smelled before, which I don't like. It is kind of like creamy, almost custard-like, kind of sweet. It's a really excellent fragrance. Quite simple, actually, to be honest. That's not a bad thing at all, to have a simple fragrance. And it's great. I can't wait to try the extreme version, like extreme version of this. It's an eau de parfum. This is an eau de toilette. And yeah, I definitely recommend you guys check this out. Going on to fragrance number 2. This fragrance is Mechant Loup. This was created by Bertrand Duchaufour, and was launched in 1997. And this basically means angry wolf, or big bad wolf, or something along those lines. And the notes in this fragrance are hazelnut, honey, sandalwood, cedar, licorice, and myrrh. So reading that note breakdown, it sounds quite promising, to be honest, and I was actually looking forward to really trying this fragrance. And for me, I have to be honest, guys, you know, I'm not trying to just praise L'Artisan. I'm just trying to be honest. I don't like it, to be honest. I really don't like it. It's not that I don't like the scent, but I don't like how it performs on my skin, and it doesn't perform on my skin, basically. It's just like, It's just like a musky wood type scent, almost like a very strong cedar I get. I think it says sandalwood and cedar, yeah, so there is cedar in this. A very strong cedar record I get in here. It's kind of slightly nutty, but not the actual um, nut of the hazelnut itself, but more the casing, like the shell. Like all these shells have been left separated from the nut itself and just left on the side and mixed in with this cedarwood. It's kind of cedary, musky. It's pretty boring, to be honest. There's nothing much going on in this fragrance to get me excited. I don't feel that there's much development. It doesn't perform very well. I mean, Premier Figuier, which is a very fresh scent, actually goes on for several hours, whereas Mechant Loup kind of just dies on my skin, basically. There's nothing much more I can say about this fragrance. Musky, slightly nutty, coming from the kind of like a shell of a hazelnut. Um, Almost dust-like in some ways. And you're not going to smell bad wearing this fragrance. It's not awful. It's not like it doesn't stink or anything. But it's nothing I can get really excited about. And that's really what I'm looking for nowadays when I add fragrances to my collection. So going on to the next fragrance, this one is Bois Farine. Came out in 2003 and was created by Jean-Claude Ellena. So as you can, if you didn't know already, there are some pretty big name French perfumers who create fragrances for L'Artisan Parfumeur. Bois Farine, there is fennel seed, iris, white cedar, gaiac wood, sandalwood, and benzoin. In this case, I think the note breakdown kind of doesn't really smell like like for me, reading that note breakdown, it doesn't really, I can't really pick up much of those notes in where is it? In Bois Farine. This is a strange fragrance, I gotta say. I was a little bit surprised by how this fragrance smelled like. Some people say it smells like cooked bread. Some people says it smells like peanut butter, like toast with butter. I think I can't remember who said that, but yeah, I mean that is kind of the vibe you are getting. Really, what I get from this fragrance is, yes, I do get a peanut butter vibe to this fragrance, but it is a very, very sweet, a very kind of sugary peanut butter type smell. There is an element of baked bread, but it's a kind of like a sugar bread, almost as if you have a loaf of bread and you've put it into the oven, but you've sprinkled some sugar on top of this bread. And that's really what I get from this fragrance. It's almost slightly floral, which it must be coming from the iris because it's also slightly powdery as well. Like, you know, like you might have some dusting on top of the kind of like icing sugar dusted on top of this baked bread. It's a bit weird. It's quite sweet and it's quite woody as well. You get a kind of sandalwood note going through this fragrance, which is kind of a very sweet style wood, or it can be quite sweet in some cases. Yeah, and also you've also got gaiac wood and cedar, so I don't really pick up on those two woody notes, but there is something in there. I pick up the sandalwood, to be honest. It's also slightly a vanilla-like, coming from the benzoin, must be coming from the benzoin, but that's not really the most obvious notes for me. It's really this kind of flowery, peanut buttery, sugary type smell. I do like it. I like it a lot, but you know, I'm not sure whether I'd go out and buy it. Simply because there are other fragrances in the house which I probably want to buy first. So performance-wise, it does perform pretty well, and pretty well in terms of L'Artisan standards. A lot of the L'Artisan fragrances don't go on for a huge amount of time, but this one you're definitely going to get some pretty good projection and good longevity, but not, you know, 8-10 hours, around the 6, 7, 8 mark. So going on now to the final fragrance. This is Coeur de Vetiver Sacre. Now this was released in 2010, so quite a new one. And the perfumer is Karine Vinchon Spener. I'm not quite sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. And the notes in here, there's quite a few notes. There's bergamot, orange, black tea, pepper, ginger, coriander. There's a lot more. Saffron, dates, dried apricot, incense, osmanthus, rose, iris, vanilla, vetiver, tarragon, sandalwood, white cedar. I'm not done yet. Gaiac wood, amber, tonka, labdanum, castoreum, and musk. So actually, you know, I was recently in the L'Artisan store here in London. They have a store in Covent Garden, and I had finished my sample, my Lucky Scent sample, and I saw this fragrance on sale, so I had to go for it. I really like this fragrance. This is a fantastic bottle. I really like the new design. I mean, this cap's been around for a while now, but it's a new design and it's got a weight to it. It's a really elegant bottle. It's a great fragrance. So I've actually got a bit of it now, and what I get from this fragrance is, okay, imagine a bowl, and you've got a bowl of dried fruits. You know, your raisins and your apricots and dried plums and prunes, like really densely packed in together, really densely packed. And this basket is hanging somewhere, and underneath this basket you have a couple of incense sticks burning away, and the smoke is going through this basket and is infusing with the dried fruits inside this basket, and that's really what the fragrance is all about. It's kind of like an incensey dried fruit accord. It's very different. It's a very unique fragrance to me. I've never smelt this combination before. Um, it has kind of like an almost an apple-like accord in the opening. It's very different. There are a lot of notes in here, and I'm not necessarily picking up on all of them. But as this incense vibe starts to tone down a little bit, you get the vetiver. Vetiver is not really the dominant note in here. It is in the name, but it's not the dominating scent. The vetiver in here is a kind of sweet vetiver. It's kind of how I like it. It reminds me a little bit, if anybody knows the fragrance from Ormond Jane called Cézanne, that has a pretty good vetiver note in the dry down. Quite a sweet vetiver, and that's kind of how it is here. You know, I've only used a tiny sample and a couple of sprays of the bottle, so I'm still, well, all of these I haven't used a huge amount, it's just small samples. But yeah, I mean, this is a really interesting fragrance, definitely worth checking out. And that's it really. Yeah, it performs really well, really well. It's probably the strongest out of all of these, and yeah, no complaints there over performance. It's definitely a colder weather type fragrance, so I'll be putting it away for a while and going back to it later on in the year. So that's it, guys. You know, let me know your thoughts. So what do you think of these fragrances? Check out part one, as I said, if you haven't already, and just let me know your thoughts on the house. Did these fragrances impress you? If you have tried them, did they disappoint you? And what L'Artisan fragrance do you have, and are your favourites? It's always great to hear from you, and thanks again for the support. And stay tuned for some sample videos, some reviews of full bottles. I haven't done a full bottle review in a while. I'm just finding it a little bit difficult time at the moment. Yeah, thanks for watching, guys. See you soon. Bye.